Come on.
We are the Sportz Nutz. Bang, bang.
Let's get it.
What is good, my beautiful people? It's Friday. We getting down on Friday. We made it. Let's go. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Sportz Nutz. This is episode 22. Dos. I hope everybody had a wonderful 4th of July. This gentleman who is actually over here, JD, we actually had the privilege to have him and his family at our house. JD, are you still full from all that food you ate, sir?
Oh, man, yeah, absolutely. We had a great time. Shot off some fireworks. We even taught the kids a little fireworks safety. Always be safe with the fireworks. Even Daddy got a little burn to just give them that perfect example. But no,
That's
man, we
right.
had a great time. We hope everybody had a great and safe 4th. I did see there was one tragedy. Apparently, someone tried to light a firework off of their head here in South Carolina.
That is such a genius move, right?
I strongly recommend not doing that. But hey,
let's not do that, y'all.
We're gonna talk some great sports stuff this evening. We got our Atlanta man in the house. We got plenty of stuff to get to. Shane, Brandon, how you guys living, man?
Who is this man right here? This is my man, Shane Owen. How is everybody doing on the Shane Owen side? We haven't seen you since early this week, man. How you been, brother?
Oh, man. Hey, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. All of our mixed nuts, sports nuts out there, man. It has been hot here the past couple of days. 7:30 last night, 102 on the car thermometer. It was a blazer. So we had a fun time popping on some fireworks late last night. That's about the only time that we were able to get outside and do it without sweating about 10 pounds off. But, man, had a good 4th, safe, worked all the way through it. So didn't get the time off to spend out by the pool with family and stuff like that. But, hey, I'm excited for tonight. So, as I say, let's get it.
Hey, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to welcome our man. I'm going to call him the myth, the legend, Abe Gordon from 92.9 The Game in Atlanta. Mr. Abe Gordon, how are you doing, sir?
I'm doing good, guys. Shane, I know you're joking about like sweating off 10 pounds. I ran the Peachtree Road Race yesterday morning. I quite literally lost 8 pounds between when I weighed myself pre-race and when I got home. So you're not kidding, man. It'll come out of you quick when it's as hot as it's been here in Atlanta, too.
Oh, it has been a sauna.
Oh, yeah.
I was going to ask you about that race, so I'm glad you mentioned it there. Was there some kind of charitable cause or anything for that race that you ran?
I mean, not on my behalf. Obviously, the race has a ton of great partners that they partner with and do some great things with. But no, I mean, it's one of the staples of July 4th in Atlanta, to be honest. I grew up running that race. I left Atlanta. It's a great way to start the holiday. The world's largest 10K. You got over 50,000 people all gathered to run right down the heart of Atlanta. So it's pretty cool. And yeah, there's a ton of different charitable ventures going on surrounding the race. But you've also got the seriousness of it. Like there are some of the top runners in the world that do come to this race. I know you had the guy who ended up winning yesterday. I think he's the number one ranked road 10,000 meter runner in the world. So there's some real talent. One of the Americans who was running is going to represent USA in the marathon. So there's some legitimate dudes. It's just not just the neighbors out there trying to get their workouts in. It's a real race.
I know exactly about the race. I grew up from Atlanta myself. And I can remember Chris Holcomb, 11 Alive, him broadcasting from it regularly. I don't think he runs it anymore. He did make a post about it yesterday. And then you may have seen him. I don't know. Brandon Leak, he posted his race time yesterday of It was like an hour and 58 minutes or 2 hours.
Okay, I was gonna say, just don't tell me
he walked like
beat me.
that.
I love
He
I
walked
love
us through it.
Motown, but can't have
Oh,
him
yeah.
topping me, man. I might have to train harder next year.
You know, and you know what? JD is not from Atlanta. Neither is Shane, and it really is. It's a staple. There are people who line the roads, like what, 5:30, like 4:30, 5:30 in the morning, just to get good sights and sounds to see what's going on in the road race. It really is a big thing. It's kind of like the Boston Marathon, you know.
Yeah, there's the chair brigade. They set up early and they stay late and kind of hang out and deal with the heat themselves and root on all the runners. And I'll tell you what, it's a lot more appreciated than people might think. Like, it's important to have those people pushing you on, especially when you hit the hills mile 4 or 5. But yeah, it's a great event. I mean, you can only get the shirt if you run the race. And you know, wearing the shirt around for the next year until next year's event is a point of pride for Atlanta. So it's a big deal.
That's right.
That reminds
you know
me
what?
of the Charleston Bridge Run. Also, yeah, people lined them up. There were big, athletic people that came and ran that race as well.
Yeah, for sure.
But man, hey, hope you had a great 4th.
Yeah, no, it was good. I just like you guys, I got all my digits here. We're safe. The dog handled the fireworks quite nicely. I want to shout out to my neighbors for capping it at 10:30 because I know sometimes you have some people blasting them off at like 1:18 in the morning. We didn't have any of that around me, so had a couple brats and we were good to go.
Look at Shane over here raising his hand just slowly. Yeah, we knew it was you the whole time, Shane. We're all the way up here. We heard you way down there. Come on now. No, so Ed, we shoot fireworks off here, but I live like 8-9 minutes outside of downtown, easily up in South Carolina. And for whatever reason, they shoot their fireworks display at 9:45 at night. And my nephew and niece were in town with my brother and sister-in-law. And they're like, can we please go drive to downtown easily? I'm like, no, you're not going to find a spot, A. And B, they closed the road off, so there's no opportunity to go. They even tell the trains you can't go through the trains on the train tracks for a good hour. So that backs it up too. So you hear the constant trains going off. And JD was at my house yesterday, and we shot fireworks off. And so him and I got a little fancy, and we connected our big boomers together. And we lit 3 at one time, and he burned his finger a little bit. And his wife goes, JD, did you burn yourself? He's like, yeah, I'm totally fine. And then the kids are like, can we please shoot some fireworks? He goes, this is an example why only adults can touch the fireworks.
Yeah, no, I mean, look, it's better to learn that lesson from someone else getting maimed than from yourself getting maimed. So, look, we've all seen the YouTube videos or the TikTok clips or whatever your social media of choice is. So, yeah, just be smart. I mean, they're meant to do one thing. Just allow them to do that one thing. Don't try and create some new game or whatever with these things. And we'll all come out of this feeling happy about the night.
I got a question to ask you. Did you ever have Roman candles lights when you were a kid?
Yeah, we shot them at people who didn't. I mean, come on. Like, I'm not here to pretend I'm like some holier than thou who's never made a bad decision in their life. Of course, we shot Roman candles at each other. Like, come on.
That's the only way to do it.
Oh yeah. And then us as being sports guys, you look at JPP. Look at what he did.
Yeah, and obviously I don't know the specifics of what happened in terms of how stupid whatever he was doing was. But yeah, I mean, honestly, it's incredible that he's been able to rebound and kind of have the career that he's had post accident. You look at that and you thought this was a career ender, and you look at some in-game injuries that have happened. There was a tight end a number of years ago. It was Zach Miller for the Bears. He dislocated his knee. They almost
oh my god, that was the nastiest. Yeah, that was the nastiest.
They almost had to amputate his leg, and he was never the same. We know about Kevin Ware with Louisville when he snapped his leg as well at the corner of the screen, and he obviously tried to recover, but it was never really there. So for Jason Pierre-Paul to come back, I mean that is the rare exception, not the rule, for a guy or gal or anyone who has a serious July 4th mistake. So. hoping everyone came out unscathed. We talk about it. I'm sure you guys talk about it heading into the holiday. Just be smart, like take the precautions you're supposed to. But sure enough, there's, you read the paper the next morning, and there's a whole laundry list of people who had a bad night. So
JD just mentioned it. How about the guy? There's a guy in South Carolina. Got to be absolutely the Darwin Award winner of all time. Stuck a firecracker on the top of his head and lit it and blew his brains out. Common sense, folks. Fireworks, they're big. They're going to explode. They're going to cause injuries. Be smart. And, we all have adult beverages in our hands tonight. And so I'm going to say this. Be smart. JD and I have a good friend, Rob Brown. If you do something stupid, I'm going to punch you in the face. So, that's what he says.
Yeah, don't drink and drive. I'll punch you in the face. Yeah.
That's right. Hey, before we go any further, we want to give a shout out to our sponsor, Tequila. As you see, their information is on the board. Guys, if you're looking for authentic, affordable, and delicious Mexican cuisine, Tequila's Grill and Easily is your place. From Shane and JD's favorite homemade salsa bar, the queso, the chimichangas, and Shane liked this too, the taco salad, the happy hour, Monday through Friday from 4 to 7 p.m. You get to buy one, get one 50% off all drinks. You name it, they have it. 5155 Calhoun Memorial Highway in Easley, South Carolina. Give them a call today. Reserve your parties at 864-307-8028. That is Tequila's Grill and Easley. And hey, don't forget, everybody, we're only a few weeks away, live on location at July 19th. 7:30 p.m. to 9 p.m. at Tequila's Grill. We will be broadcasting live. We'll be doing a drawing. We'll have more. We are even going to have our good friend Kelly Bryant, who was on earlier this week, former Clemson and Missouri quarterback. He is going to be there. So please come on by and check us out. Again, that's Tequila's Grill and Easley. I know Abe is like, that sounds really yummy. I want to get some good Mexican food. Isn't that right, Abe?
Hey, man, you put a plate of nachos in front of me and a chance to chat with Kelly Bryant on the side as well. Like that's an evening well spent. So I'm a little jealous.
Oh, my God.
Getting to do that.
We had so much fun with Kelly Bryant. He is, and here's the crazy story. So I live in Easley. He went to Wren. Wren High School is about maybe 20 minutes away from my house with traffic. My mother-in-law lives off the same road that it goes to Wren High School, 81. And when I said I live in Easy, he goes, oh, I know exactly where it was. So then he started saying 96 and Abbeville, and then that sparked JD to say something about it, and then Shane started talking about it. We had the absolute best time talking to him. Have you talked to Kelly Bryant yet?
Yeah, I've talked to Kelly over the years. Obviously, a long time ago when I was mostly covering only college sports. But he's got such a unique perspective for what's going on in college football today because of the ACC ties, but also the SEC ties. And so he's kind of a one-stop shop for discussion about what's going on in the majority of football in the Southeast. So he's a real treat to chat with.
Absolutely. So, I'm excited to talk to you about this because, everybody knows you are the Atlanta sports expert. And you and I actually just texted this with each other, I believe maybe an hour and a half ago, about this whole possibility. And so with Brandon Ingram maybe even possibly being traded to the Atlanta Hawks. So, it's kind of a little bit of breaking news, obviously. I'm still trying to see if it's actually going to happen. I know you have a lot of sports connections on that one. I talked to a radio host. His name is Gus over in New Orleans. And he, too, said it has been mentioned as a possibility that, they could increase the trade to possibly get Brandon Ingram to come to Atlanta. What are your thoughts on if this really materializes?
Well, the Brandon Ingram discussion has to start back last Friday, like a week ago tonight, right? Because at 6:42, we get the news that DeJounte Murray is being traded to the Pelicans. And the initial reports did not have players attached. They did not have names attached. It was just that we knew DeJounte Murray is going to the Pelicans. And we've been talking like, what's our first thought? All right, like we got to see it. Is it Brandon Ingram on the comeback? Well, as we know now, at least it hasn't been made official because it won't be made official till the weekend, but it did not include Brandon Ingram. And so, I kind of followed the thread and kind of looked at where some of these reports are coming from. It was kind of like a throw out mention at the back end of a discussion. Two other teams, I think, are really in line for Brandon Ingram. I think there's a situation where if it falls apart there, maybe the Hawks can get involved. But we're going to be quite honest, like what Brandon Ingram's entering like the last year of a contract. He's going to ask for $20 million. I don't know if the Hawks realistically are going to get involved in that right now. If they do, they certainly have to clear money, which would mean that DeAndre Hunter probably has to get added to the package. If you're the Hawks, you'd also like to move on from Clint Capella, but if you're not bringing a center along with that, then who knows? And when you get into the NBA and you start working in future draft picks and 3-team deals and all that sort of wonkiness to make salaries match, it can go any which way. If I had to be honest with you, I don't think Brandon Ingram is going to end up with the Atlanta Hawks. I think there are other teams that are probably a little bit hotter on that trail, maybe willing to spend money to get that done. But look, nothing's official until it's official. And if you're sitting here telling me that DeJounte Murray trade and all the reports for Dyson Daniels and whoever you want it to be, if that's not official yet and they're still talking, anything can happen. And, I talked about it earlier this week. Landry Fields is desperate to try and find a way to upgrade this roster. You can't argue that Brandon Ingram wouldn't be doing that. So maybe there's still a way to make that happen. Look, I'd like to remain incredibly optimistic about it, but the reality is I don't know if the Hawks are willing to spend the money. And so I think that's probably a bigger holdup than trade compensation. They could find a package to make it work. There's no – but you're going to have to eventually spend money on that guy. I don't know if they're willing to do that. But, hey, we're trying to compete, right? Like right now they're not competitive. With the roster they have right now, whether you believe Dyson Daniels is that dude or not, they're not going to be competitive. You bring Brandon Ingram in, maybe we have a different discussion, a guy that can score 20 points a night. So I would love to see it happen and see if it works. I'm just not quite in the mindset that Landry Fields and, more importantly, the owner is ready to spend that much.
And I understand that one too. And obviously, we all have wish lists. We all have wants, and versus needs. The Hawks have a lot of needs that have to be filled. But then you've even hit the nail on the head. It comes to money. So Let's go ahead and do this one with the Atlanta Braves. Maybe they're back. Maybe they're not. Ironically, you and I also were talking about this, about them the other day. I did ask you if they could really go 6-0 in the Homestead. You said it is baseball. They could go 0-6 so far. I believe they're 1-2 so far in this Homestead.
Closer to what I promoted than to what you promoted. I wish that weren't the
case. We saw the Giant. We've seen what the Giants were able to expose. The Giants are more of a bottom feeder team right now in the NL West. The Braves, they lost game 1 5-3. Then they came back and then they won. And then the Giants beat them again game 3. They start the series tonight against the Phillies. And here's what's really cool that I'm happy to see. And I want to get your take on this one and another player. Eli White was called up for, I believe it's 15 RBIs in a 4-game series, that kind of thing. Like, that's really impressive. And then also Nacho Alvarez, he is lighting it up left and right down in Gwinnett. Do you think this promotion with Eli is going to be a good option for Atlanta? And also, do you see Nacho getting called up?
Well, and the other aspect of this is that they did add Eddie Rosario today, who was DFA'd by the Washington Nationals. He has not been great this season, but he does have a history here in Atlanta. And if you're willing to run Adam Duvall out there, you should be willing to run Eddie Rosario out there as well. And so we'll see. That would probably require them to place Ramon Laureano on the IL and clear a spot and stuff like that. But as far as Nacho, I would say no. And I'm very interested in the job he's been doing since being called up to Gwinnett. The bat is showing some real power. I don't think this is a quick plug for Nacho. I think this is a situation where there's a long-term plan for him. It's been made very clear that Orlando Arcia is not a long-term shortstop solution. Nacho is probably the only guy that you're looking at in your system right now that maybe could be considered a long-term solution. I don't think you rush that. If you are comfortable and you think he's ready, then fine. But he's been at AAA Gwinnett for like 10 games. Like if you want to sit there and let him develop, you have to think about more than just this year. The failures of the Braves right now and whatever's going on this year is not about Orlando Arcia. And so I don't think you force Nacho to try and plug that hole. You have to let that grow as it needs to. In terms of Eli White, I mean, I think you've gotten some a little bit of contribution here and there. We've seen Forrest Wall come in and do some things. We obviously Duvall, but I would imagine that Eddie Rosario gets the first shot, and Eli White is probably short-lived in terms of a real role, but we'll wait and see. Again, he has not hit at all, Eddie Rosario at the major league level. So you really don't want to pull a guy in that is going to hit 118, which is kind of pretty close to where he's been. Maybe a little higher than that, but he's below 200.
Now, I got one more follow-up, and then I'm going to go to JD on this one. We've seen something that's been very funny for the New York Mets. Everybody knows it. I'm going to mention it. They had Grimace from McDonald's throw at the first pitch. Ever since then, they kind of were one of the hottest teams. Remember that one point after Grimace threw that first pitch, they went 7-0. Now, the question I want to ask you is do you buy into this whole superstition that certain people or, quote, things could influence the level of play for teams, meaning like make them hot?
No, I'm like notoriously anti-superstition. I don't care if you mention a no-hitter when it's going on. Like, I just don't buy any of that. Nothing you do at home, wearing your socks backwards or not changing underwear, like that does not impact the team. I just don't buy into that. Look, I'm not trying to take the fun from anyone else. If that's what you guys want to believe, have at it, and don't do laundry for a year. I don't care. You can stay out of my general area if that's the case, but no, I don't buy into that. Teams get hot and cold. It's a long season. The worst teams are in baseball. They're going to have 4 or 5 game win streaks. The best teams are going to have 4 or 5 game losing streaks. So I'm not a superstition guy. I'm sorry. I'm just not. But that's just me. I don't think it. Yeah, I don't think it impacts anything that goes on.
JD.
Well, my only weird quirk in that regard is if I expect the Gamecocks to lose, which is generally, I just do that anyway. And then if they win, I'm pleasantly surprised. And if they lose, I was expecting it anyway. I mean, it's kind of the way I treat the Braves in the playoffs. But you were mentioning there a minute ago, Abe, again, hey, everybody, I don't think we said this. Make sure to like, follow, share, subscribe. I think all 13 of you, I think that I see being here right now, Tristan and Matt, you guys have commented. Abe, our first ever 2-time guest, man. Hey, we appreciate you being here. Thank you for taking time just to, as the young kids say, chop up and chill or whatever it is. But speaking into the Braves problems, like you said, I've had some people commenting about how they look lost at the plate. They don't look like they have a good approach. Whereas last year, it looked like they knew exactly what to expect. And so I'm going to go real deep with you here on this one. Do you think that this is a scouting report issue, or do you think this is what is the difference between their great approaches last year, or were they figured out this year? Is there a better scouting report on how to treat this lineup? Plus, obviously, we know a lot of the people are missing. But one thing I did see the other night, they had 4 straight in the one win they had 4 straight opposite field hits from Olsen, Riley, a couple other guys. Darnode had one, and they scored the 3 runs, and they ended up winning or whatnot. And we were always taught to drive the ball up middle of the field, opposite field, let the ball get deep, and drive it the other way. And so is that the approach that the Braves need to take, more of a contact? Or like, what is your opinion? Are they swinging too much for the fences?
Yeah, I think it's different, and it's a great question and a great point. I think it's different for different hitters. Matt Olson, for the most part, is a straight pull hitter, and so going the opposite field will more often happen by mistake. I think when you look at Austin Riley, that's a guy that when you see he goes the opposite way, you start to see him coming out of it. And quite frankly, I do think Austin Riley has pulled out of a slump. One of the biggest issues is there's not a lot of guys on base for Austin Riley to drive in front of him. And that's probably the biggest concern. It just feels like every home run that Austin Riley has hit has been a solo home run. So there's that. You know, I kind of wonder, and we had Trey Young say this, and I'm not trying to mix sports too much, but Trey Young talked about this a couple of years ago after they made a run to the Eastern Conference Finals. And I do wonder if the Braves are kind of falling into this a little bit where they started to believe their own hype. They started to believe they were untouchable, and they just thought this season was going to come easy, and it simply hasn't. And they battled their way and tried to fight their way out of these slumps that they've been in. And I just wonder if it's taken a little bit longer to pull themselves out than maybe they expected. Because I really don't have an explanation for it. And there's not really anyone we've talked to. None of the experts have an explanation for why certain guys aren't hitting, aren't tearing the cover off the ball, why it doesn't feel the same. You cannot deny it doesn't. There's no point in arguing that. It absolutely does not feel the same as it has in years past. But there's not really anything to kind of point to. I mean, does Ron Washington's departure to the LA Angels have something to do with it? I mean, maybe. How do you even try and quantify that in terms of maybe it's a clubhouse mindset? You know, some people want to say the team doesn't look like they're having fun. I wouldn't have fun either. And I know you're 9 games above 500, but you've been below 500 for how long? How many games now? Last 30, 40 games, whatever it is. And so I wouldn't have fun when you're not rolling through series after series either. So I'm not really sure. I don't think there is a quick fix or a short, easy answer for this. I don't think it's plate approach. I don't think it's scouting. I don't think it's mentality or dugout management or anything. I just think things are not going right. And when I look at the overall scope of the Braves, and we'll see what happens this weekend, obviously a huge series with the Phillies. And if the Braves somehow sweep, I might have a different discussion come Monday. If they don't sweep this series, like, I don't think they're chasing down the Phillies in the NL East. And I think that's okay. I think if you have to go in as a wild card and just hope that you're hot at the right time, so be it. Like we know your pitching staff is good enough to carry you in the postseason. Like Max Fried and Chris Sale is a 1-2 is as good as anyone else. We'll see if Ronaldo Lopez is trending at the same time. And then who knows what Double-A Alex Anthopoulos does at the deadline, maybe adding another starter. But it's kind of the thing. Like, you look at the Arizona Diamondbacks last year, like, they weren't any good. And not that they were a bad team, but that's what we're saying about the Braves. Braves aren't good right now, but they're not bad. You look at the Phillies the year before that. They weren't good. You know, but they weren't bad. Like, the last 2 NL champs who went to the World Series, despite the fact that both of them lost it, they're kind of going to be in the position the Braves were in. And so I am trending towards the idea of, like, I don't know, man, it's baseball. Like, hope you get hot at the right time. And obviously that's not what you like to rely on. I would prefer to have been where we were the past 2 years when we were the best team in baseball. We hope it shows up. But if I got to pull for the other side of that, where we're not the best team, and you maybe hope it's the right time of season, if that's where we are, then so be it. Like, I'm not saying they're the World Series favorites, but I also am not going to sit here and say this team has no World Series potential, because I do think if things get going at the right time, then they are dangerous.
Absolutely. And to that very point, I'm very interested to see how they come back off of the All-Star break.
And Michael Harris's return could be huge too. That's the other thing.
Yeah.
We talk about what's going on with Kelenic at the top of the order. We can talk about the struggles for Duvall and what we're doing with, like, you mentioned Eli White. I mentioned Eddie Rosario. You got Forrest Wall, like, whatever you wanted, Ramon Laureano before he got hurt. Like, that's all fine. But if Harris slides back in and he starts to play like he did the second half of his rookie year, then it's a completely different discussion. And so that's like kind of making a trade almost and get a guy like him back if he can perform at that level. And so this would be a vastly different looking offense if he can come back and be a game wrecker. I don't know that he will, but I think you're holding out hope for that. I think you're holding out hope for Ian Anderson as well. And so we just kind of got to wait until, like you said, second half of the season, post All-Star break, and see what sort of impact some of the guys you don't have now are, and then maybe also, of course, the deadline.
Absolutely. Shane.
Oh yeah, well, with the talk on the Braves and what we've heard in the rumor mill, Double-A, he makes some moves, he makes some magic. He likes to do it around the trade deadline, very unexpectedly. We saw him, just sign Rosario, a World Series MVP, at that, of our postseason when we went on the run. Are we really looking at the trade deadline and going after another starting pitcher with the starting pitchers that we have? I mean, we've got 3 right now with the sub-3 ERA. So it's not necessarily the pitching that's been letting up, but, we're getting Minter back. Like you said, Ian Anderson's hopefully coming around, Michael Harris. So, really, what are the actual true prospects that we would be looking at the trade deadline for somebody to kind of plug and play?
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing that's really bothersome for me is Alex Anthopoulos has done a great job in recent years, but they've been fringe moves that have worked out at the right time. This year doesn't feel like a fringe move. It feels like you need a significant addition, and I just don't know what's going to be available from the starting rotational aspect. I do think there's some outfielders, power bats that you can believe in, that maybe you could make a push for. There's probably some shortstop swaps if you want to try and upgrade there as well. If you're, got to be willing to pay, of course, as well. But for the starting arms, that's my biggest concern. And I know some Braves fans love the idea. Some people hate the idea. There's a lot of names being tossed around. Anyone on the White Sox feels like they could be up for grabs, but I don't know. I see Nick on a YouTube comment throwing out the knitting man himself, Garrett Crochet. I mean, that would be an incredible pickup based on the year he's having. He's on a very team-friendly deal right now and would be obviously trending towards making a significant money move. Potentially with us losing Max Fried, you would like to find someone you can lock up. But the name that people keep tossing around here in Atlanta, whether you like it or not, and it's something that MLB is going to have to come to terms with, is Trevor Bauer. This is the guy that is absolutely tearing up the league down in Mexico that he's pitching in. But there are very obvious reasons why Major League Baseball and the teams affiliated with the league have avoided him. But if what he says is true and the willingness to pitch for the veterans minimum, it's not a stuff issue. Like the reason Trevor Bauer's not in the league, not with the Braves, not with any other team, is not about his arm. It's about the other aspects of his personal life. And it doesn't feel like the league or the teams that would have use for him can get past that. And so you can keep talking about him all you want. If it hasn't happened yet, I don't know if it's going to happen. And so there are other options that Alex Anthopoulos has to consider. You start with the White Sox and you start looking elsewhere. Some of the other teams that might be selling, and try and figure it out. I have much more belief you can add a power outfielder than you can a power arm. But the thing about Double-A and the Braves when they make moves is it's very secretive. There are no Braves are trending towards adding this, could be that. Like it just kind of pops out of nowhere. I mean, with the exception of Rosario, like everyone kind of knew Rosario was going to get added the same way everyone saw Jesse Chavez get cut in spring training and be like, that guy, he's back. Like, he's going to be here. Like, yeah, we knew Rosario was going to be here. But for the most part, Alex Anthopoulos makes move in the shadows, in the dark. He's like Batman coming out, making a move. So we'll see if he can do that again. Maybe there are some names I don't expect, but I think it's going to be very difficult to add an arm. I thought there was some opportunities to do that last year I would have done. This year it might be a little bit tougher.
JD, you were actually talking about this with me and us recently about Trevor Bauer. Share with Abe your thoughts on Trevor Bauer.
I'm pretty sure the first time we had Abe on, I asked him that question. And yeah, I think at that point we weren't quite ready to sign him at that point. I think Abe had great points as to why we weren't. But yeah, I mean, Trevor Bauer, he just had another statement come out again. Yeah. I think he's looking to sue, if I'm not mistaken. Abe, do you know anything about that?
Yeah, I saw that. I didn't look into the details, but I'm not surprised. If I were in Trevor Bauer's position, I would absolutely think there's some levels of collusion going on to keep me out of the league. Like, and I don't know if those are the legal terms he's using, but I mean, he's pitched well enough to be in this league. It's very clear that it's the personal side of things that teams do not want to touch. And like I said a couple of minutes ago, if it hasn't happened yet, I don't think it's going to happen at this point. Like he's
like
gone
right
well
the
beyond
the
showing what
playoffs,
he's needed to show down in Mexico. Like it's just not going to happen. And so we can as a Braves fan base point and look at his stats and a new record for strikeouts and all that. Like it's all cool, but you also kind of have to realize it's probably not going to happen if it hasn't already. So I looked at it, wasn't really pushing towards it and moved beyond it. So that's kind of where I'm at. And now you start looking at some other names in Major League Baseball and there are a couple, like there really are a couple, and you kind of figure out what you need. You're not looking for an ace. You're not looking for a $130 million pitcher. If you can get someone that slides somewhere in that 3-4 hole that can kind of, when he's good, he's real good. There are going to be some games where he maybe gets you 3 1/3 and you got to go to the, whatever. There are some names you could find, but you're not going to get some guy that's going to win you the World Series MVP in the rotation. I mean, it'd be nice.
Absolutely. And I think it comes down to what Alex Anthopoulos is going to do. Obviously, we have no idea because you're right. He is so good at being secret.
I don't know. They're the only team in Atlanta that keeps, obviously everyone knew the Falcons were going to go after Kirk Cousins. Like that was the worst kept secret in franchise history. Like everyone kind of I know there were some people who were like, maybe they will trade Trey instead. And, everyone knew DeJounte Murray was on his way out. That wasn't a surprise. And quite frankly, a lot of people thought it would be the Pelicans, but as we talked about earlier, there was the idea that maybe it was for Ingram and not whatever. But yeah, Alex Anthopoulos makes moves and you're like, huh, I like that guy from that team. I didn't know we were going after him, but all right. It's crazy how quiet they are. And he'll do interviews the day of a huge trade, give nothing away. And then an hour after he hangs up, we've got a whole breaking news story and we can't replay the content because it's dated at that point. But he's incredible how he keeps those the staff totally silent. It's pretty rare.
He has the best poker face around, right?
He definitely does, for sure. Good call.
So, Abe, let's switch it up a little bit here. You just mentioned the Atlanta Falcons. I'm an Atlanta boy. The buzz around town is extremely high for what this Falcons team is possibly going to accomplish. Now, my good friend Chase Cravey, who hosts a podcast called Dirty Fanatics United, him and his brother and my cousin Cody talk about what the season could mean for Atlanta. Now, this is obviously the most interesting position that the Falcons are in. We knew Kirk Cousins was coming. Everybody knew it. You said it. The talk around town is that Kirk could lead this team to between a 12 or even 13 win season. I, for one, believe that the NFC South is and will be Atlanta's again, and maybe for years to come even. I've seen the reports that the Saints, they're about to be sellers because JD has even mentioned this. We talk about this all the time. Spencer Rattler's on the team, and they have even said that give it to week 7, and if Carr is not performing, they're going to sell off the entire Saints big guys, and they're going to start all over again. So I've seen also projections out there and you may have seen them as well, that ESPN has said the Falcons are going between 11 and even 14 wins kind of season. Obviously 14 wins would be fantastic for the Birds.
Let me help you out. It ain't gonna be that.
Well, the last time we saw something of that record-wise was 98, obviously. Yeah. It's been a very long time. I, for one, am favoring more of the 13-4 kind of season. What are your excitements about this season for the Birds? Do you see Atlanta winning the NFC South, maybe grabbing the number 1 seed in the postseason, maybe even hosting all the way to New Orleans?
I do think they'll win the NFC South. I think it's between them and the Buccaneers. The Buccaneers are essentially running it back. I know they've lost a little bit on the defensive line and in the linebacking core. They're essentially running it back and hoping that's enough. They've also got to replace Dave Canales at offensive coordinator, which you do have to wonder how much of Baker Mayfield's success might have been due to Canales, who's now going to hopefully go try and turn around Bryce Young. I wish him all of the luck. But I do think it's between the Bucks and the Falcons. I think the Falcons.
So JD is actually a Panthers fan. So yeah.
Look, I like Bryce Young. It was a nightmare. They gave him no help, but even with help, I have no idea how good he is. Like not that we're all not Captain Hindsight, but like CJ Stroud, like what are we doing in Carolina, like to make that your draft pick? But I digress. I think 11 wins is probably a good number for the Falcons. Like I'd be pretty pleased. I wouldn't be over the moon with 11 because I think it's mildly realistic, but I'd be pretty pleased with 11-6. That's enough to win you the NFC South. Look, if we're going to be honest here, guys, and maybe I'm wrong about the Falcons, if you don't beat Pittsburgh week 1, you're probably 0-3. You got the Eagles and Kansas City coming up right after that. The Eagles are a road game. Kansas City's home game. Like you're probably starting 1-2 or 0-3, and it's just going to be tough to get to 13 wins off of that. So I'm going to keep it realistic. I think 11 wins probably wins you the division, gets you a home playoff game, a winnable game. You're not going to be the number 1 seed in the NFC, but I think that's a pretty good measure for what they could be. Maybe you sneak in winning the NFC South at 10 wins. I think 11's where you're at. Here's the good news. Talk about potentially starting 0-3 if you can't beat Pittsburgh at home week 1. You got, like I said, Kansas City and the Eagles, or I may have flipped the order, but those are your week 2 and week 3 games. You end the season, and again, I don't remember the order, but your last 3 games are like the Commanders, the Giants, and the Panthers. Like if you're in the running for the division in week 15, week 16, you can probably win out. And so I just want to remind people of that because it might look ugly at first, and you're obviously dealing with some growing pains with Kirk Cousins, with Raheem Morris, Zach Robinson, a new defensive coordinator, new offensive, all the stuff that it would come with. I understand that. But don't overreact if you do start 0-3 because you still have an opportunity to build, and your end of the season scheduling is very, very manageable.
Absolutely, and of course, the Birds fan in me, I want to see them go 17-0, go 22-0, completely win the whole thing. But I'm gonna ask you this, and I'm gonna throw it to Shane also after this too. Was how sweet would it be for Atlanta to hold the Lombardi in New Orleans this year?
Yeah, I mean that's a good point. And for us, we had to deal with it here in Atlanta, right? Like we had to deal with we lose the Houston Super Bowl, right? 28-3. And then the Super Bowl held here in Atlanta, the Patriots come into town, and people are like, "Oh man, of all the teams that could come to Atlanta, rah 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 rah." And it's like whatever. Like I don't get hung up on that in terms of holding grudges and all that. But there were a lot of fans who were like, "Oh, can't believe it might be the Patriots lifting the Super Bowl in Atlanta." And like that was like based off of one game, and I know it's a Super, whatever, but like. We're talking about like years and years of pettiness and grudges and rivalry and hatred. That would be like one of the worst things the Saints fan could imagine is the Atlanta Falcons lifting a Super Bowl trophy in their building. So, hey man, no better year to win it than this year. I would like to say I believe that they can come close. Quite frankly, I do not think they're ready to compete. It's not that they don't have what it takes, but I haven't seen it yet. I think there's a lot of young guys, especially in the defensive front, that are going to make up the difference between winning the NFC South and, getting a home game and potentially being good enough to bridge the gap and being a contender. If they can get after that pass rusher, if they can find a way to get after the quarterback with the young guys, whether it's Ebiketie or Harrison who've been on the team, or Trice, Dorless, Ruka Rororo, all the guys that they put to the defensive front this draft, if they find dudes who can rush the passer and they get to like 40 or 45 sacks this year, maybe they can bridge that gap. Right now, there's too much reliant on the offense, and rightfully so. That's only because we haven't seen it, though. That's not because it's not necessarily there. And by the way, it might not be there. Like, it might be we had like 23 sacks and we're dealing with this crap again. But if it is there, they actually could compete. I mean, the Giants were, the Lions were nothing special last year to like week 14, and their defense just clicked, their offense clicked, and they got hot. And I know we talk about baseball teams getting hot, and I will say, like, you definitely should not rely on just getting hot at the right time in the NFL, because almost always the best teams win. But the time the Falcons did go to the Super Bowl, they did get hot, especially on offense. And now you're hoping to reverse that trend and get hot on defense. That's what the Lions did last year. It took them the NFC title game. There's no reason to believe if the young guys don't perform, or if they do perform, that they actually could. And so I'm not expecting it. I'm going to be realistic. If they can win a home playoff game, I think that's a successful first step. But you never know what falls and what clicks, and who knows, and we'll go from there.
Shane.
Oh, yeah. Well, according to ESPN's FBI that we all kind of look at, especially with the season getting started, Falcons are right there, kind of a long shot at number 12, 3% chance. We see the 49ers, the usual suspects, 49ers, Eagles, Chiefs, Bills. They're all up there. You know, with the Falcons being, such a low percentage, I think they were the last one on the list that I actually saw. What are the other teams that you think that are kind of in Atlanta's same situation but could make noise going into the playoffs?
Yeah. Am I allowed to go AFC teams here?
Oh,
yes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
There's one team in the AFC, and the problem is I don't believe in their quarterback at all, but I could be wrong about them. But it's a team that feels like they have pushed all in, and that's the Tennessee Titans. They add Calvin Ridley. They already had DeAndre Hopkins. They make the trade for L'Jarius Sneed, and I don't believe in Will Levis. Like, I'm sorry. Like, I don't know if
Mr. Mayo in the coffee.
I know. But I'm telling you what, man, they have put together an incredibly strong roster, quarterback aside. If Will Levis, and look, he came in his first ever start and roasted the Falcons, like 4 touchdowns, 300-something yards. It was a nightmare for the defense, and I could not believe we're watching a dude in his first career start do it, especially a dude that I don't believe in. But I actually do think the Tennessee Titans have pushed like all the hell the way in. So I'm interested to see what they do. Outside of them, I think it's your regular cast of characters. And we can talk about the Jets, and like if Aaron Rodgers can return from injury to like the close to the MVP self. They've obviously got a loaded roster, but I still love the 49ers. Chiefs still have that Mahomes fellow who's pretty good. The Ravens have a loaded roster. I think it's going to be a lot of the same cast of characters. The Eagles, I think, have upgraded a little bit, adding Saquon Barkley, so maybe that can help them out. But it just feels like it's the same group. I will say this. The darlings of the NFL a year ago were the Houston Texans. I don't know if they can repeat that. I'm going to be very interested in what they can do. And it's not that I don't believe in C.J. Stroud. I just think they overachieved a little bit in that first year. And so I'm wondering if they take a slight step back. And I bring them up because we are talking about the AFC South. We are talking about, this division. I think the Jaguars are really trying to go for it, especially because they're paying Trevor Lawrence all that money. I think the Texans look like they were competitive. Maybe they take a step. There's something about the Titans, man. If the quarterback's good, they're going to be a real problem. Like, they're going to be a real problem. But I don't know if he's good. I really don't. But their roster is loaded.
JD.
All right. Abe Gordon, 92.9, the fan of Atlanta, joining us here this evening. Man, listen, I got to ask you a difficult question.
Okay.
I need you to put on your Kirk Cousins detractor hat or whatever you want to call it.
Okay.
We've seen him in primetime games.
Yeah.
We've seen him be injured. So at what point this year do you think Michael Penix starts a game for the Falcons?
Yeah, if he's healthy, he's starting. And I'm referring to Cousins.
Right.
If there's issues physically, maybe you take a look at that. But I'll be honest, and we've seen this in recent weeks, recent years, where teams keep 3 active quarterbacks. One is an emergency quarterback. I don't know if Michael Penix would start the year as the backup. Like, I do think there's a world if you still have Taylor Heineke that maybe through like week 4, maybe through week 3, he's the backup and not Penix, and then that will probably switch. And I do think that would be like only like a 3 or 4 week thing. But I do wonder at the very, very start of the season if you actually even have Penix available as your backup. Beyond that, like if Kirk Cousins is healthy, he's going to play. Like you poured the money into it. I don't think you can get away from that. I don't think there's a level of performance that can dip so poorly that it's not going to be him. And a lot of that's just based on like, if he's healthy, we know what we're getting, right? Like there's not a lot of question marks with Kirk Cousins. Obviously, as you referenced there, JD, you're hoping to turn around the playoff resume. But I don't know if all of that falls on the quarterback. Like quarterbacks take so much credit when they win. They get so much heat when they lose. I'd have to go back and look at every individual game and be like, here's a throw he missed. Why did he miss it? Could he not step into the pot? Like there's so much innuendo and nuance and detail that I have to look at to be like, yeah, Kirk Cousins blew this game versus they were outmatched or it didn't work out. Like whatever it might be. I know it, like we all simplify it to be like, he doesn't win in prime time. Okay. Like, I mean, I get it. Like the numbers are real. Like they're there. But it would take so much more time to study that and be like, they don't win in prime time because of him. And so I'm not buying that. Like, I feel like we've anointed a lot of different guys, like guys that couldn't win, and they've eventually found a way to win. So
remember, they said the same thing about Ryan though as well. They said he could never win, and then he got.
I think we
into the
said
Super
that
Bowl.
about Peyton Manning. Like,
we did.
Peyton Manning couldn't get over the hump, and we're like, well, this guy just can't win the big one. I'm like, really? Like, you're talking about one of the 2 or 3 greatest quarterbacks to ever play the game. You think this is on him? No, they finally got a fucking run defense, and like they're ready to go. Am I not allowed to curse on this one? I saw some faces. All right, I'll keep it quiet. But like, yeah, like
it's okay.
They finally got a run
JD
defense.
slipped too.
They finally got a run defense, and like that made all the difference. And you're like, yeah, it wasn't Peyton Manning that couldn't beat Tom Brady or get over. Like, it was an incomplete team, and so I think it's kind of difficult to judge it from that. But yeah, you have those discussions for everyone. Like Lamar Jackson's dealing with it right now. Like he can't get over the hump, right? I don't know if it's Lamar Jackson is an issue. Like, I don't think so. Like, I don't think they've surrounded him with the right amount of playmakers. Is that on him? But like, we're talking about another year where Lamar was MVP and didn't get to the Super Bowl. Like,
the only bowl he got to was the toilet bowl.
Yeah, are we the Pro Bowl? I guess. Like, are we throwing that in Lamar's face? Be like, this guy can't, not good enough, can't win the. So I'm not going to throw it on Kirk Cousins. I don't think Michael Penix, to answer your original question, I don't think there's a shot in heck that he's playing this season if Cousins is healthy. Outside of that, I don't think there's a level of poor performance based on the $100 million guaranteed. I don't think there's a level of poor performance that changes your mind there. Next year may be different, but not this year.
Yeah, no, I hear you. And so let me ask it this way then. I'll go rapid fire. So Kirk is coming off an Achilles injury, correct? Mm-hmm. So here, chances of right now in your mind, what is the probability of both Aaron and Kirk or either one of those guys coming back off an Achilles and having a setback this year? I was kind of more asking what were your probability, what do you think the chances are that Kirk gets hurt this year?
No, I feel good. I feel
good
about
him.
Healthy,
right?
Yeah, I do. I think he's done a lot more than we probably expected him to do in the mini camps and OTAs and all that stuff. And quite frankly, he's done more than he himself admitted he expected to be doing at this time. I can't speak to Aaron Rodgers, who's, I mean, it
Right.
looks like he's been hiking in Egypt. That's like a lot of like some strenuous activity for
Right.
his Achilles to deal with. But
Oh yeah.
no, I feel pretty good about Kirk Cousins. Like I do. I think if he does get hurt, and there's always potential that guys that don't escape the pocket get hurt, right? Like that's always going to be there. There's potential that guys that do escape the pocket get hurt. But I don't think it's going to be because of the current injury. I think he's coming back pretty well. I feel pretty good. Modern medicine has taken a number of steps forward in advancing sports injuries and recovery. So I feel pretty good about where he's at.
Gotcha.
Shane.
Oh yeah, and we talked about the AFC South. We touched on it, and we're talking about injuries. That was going to be my next question. The Colts, they've got some pieces there. Anthony Richardson coming back off injury. Where are they going to go with that? And even we talked about the Tennessee Titans. What are your thoughts on Malik sitting there behind Will? He's got such an athletic, frame build, and I mean he's got such potential with that raw talent. It's kind of funny. We bring all these younger quarterbacks in each South division that we're kind of talking about. Penix, Bryce Young, and we're Spencer Rattler making some noise down there at the Saints. Then you're talking about Richardson, Lawrence, Stroud, and Levis or Malik right there in that South. Which quarterback? I know we're big on Tennessee with what he's got around him, but
yeah,
which one do you think? Like, say, take Kirk Cousins out of it, and we're putting young guys in there. Or, which teams? I put the Falcons kind of in the same situation. They've got such young talent and a lot of talent around the quarterback position at this time. Which one do you think would thrive the best in those kind of situations?
Yeah, I mean. The thing about it, and I'll kind of work our way through a couple of different teams. I don't know if I buy Anthony Richardson. And look, I'm a Florida fan. Like I love Anthony Richardson. I'm concerned about his ability to hold up physically through a season. And that is not an Achilles or an ACL thing. That is, guy doesn't get down. He takes shots to the ribs. He's got a shoulder injury already. It's already creeping back up. And so there's concerns about him. And part of the concern about Anthony Richardson is we didn't get to see a lot of him. Like, I don't know what he really learned last year. And are we still going to be dealing with rookie mistakes, stuff like that? And so he's a tough one to kind of gauge. In terms of the young quarterbacks, I mean, Malik Willis didn't show me anything. He'd been given a little bit of opportunity. It was very clear the team did not trust him to throw the ball, which I don't know how you move forward with a quarterback in which the team doesn't really trust him to put it in danger. That was kind of the issue that hampered the Falcons, right? Like Arthur Smith had to call plays in which he was forcing Desmond Ridder not to make a decision to put this ball in danger because he couldn't trust him. And we saw how that worked for the offense that the Falcons ran last year. Not very good. In terms of young quarterbacks, though, the one that's got me interested, and I know it's like low-hanging fruit, though, but when you talk about a young quarterback that is just surrounded by a ton of talent, it's Caleb Williams. And I don't know if I trust Caleb Williams. I don't know if I
even signed yet either.
But he's just got so much dudes around him. Now, I don't know if their offensive line is great. I'm not going to pretend to know the front five everywhere, but DJ Moore's the number one. Keenan Allen is the number one. I really like the tight end they've got there as well in Chicago, and they added a running back to an already kind of two-headed monster at running back. I think they've got a lot on offense for Caleb Williams. He's a Heisman winner. Like, you don't win those by mistake, but he took a step back in his final year at USC. A lot of that's because he didn't have Addison anymore. Right. That's going to affect me too. So we're interested to see Caleb Williams and his growth. I don't want to kind of put too much on his shoulders in terms of expectations, but like, that's the one that's an offense that's ready to go. Like that's the offense that has a first or second year quarterback that is ready to be like a real legit offense. And if he can rise to the occasion, there's no reason that, and I can't believe I'm saying this, there's no reason that the Bears won't be a top 10 offense in the NFL.
Okay, you got my look at shock right there.
Yeah. Sorry, Graham. Let me throw this one out there too. The Panthers, like you mentioned earlier, the Falcons might look to start 0-3. The Panthers could very well be looking to start 1-6 or 0-7.
You could tell me they go 1-16, and I believe it. Like I don't trust their playmakers. I don't know anything about Dave Canales, which is part of it as well. So yeah. I don't know. Like they may have. I don't know. We have to give Bryce Young a little bit of leash here. They may have really screwed up that number 1 pick, and if so, it's just a nightmare setback. You traded Brian Burns. You can't tell me that's a team looking to win right now. So I don't really know where to go with that squad right now.
Yeah,
they may have to restart. They may have to start over after this year if he doesn't.
Dave Tepper will be throwing drinks on people by week 7, my friend.
Yeah.
Brandon, back to you. Sorry.
So, Abe, I've watched the Falcons since '92, actually. I want to thank you to my sister Jessica for taking me to see the Falcons at old Fulton County Stadium, the dump yard for football. The biggest news this offseason was actually split into 3 big stories. Number 1, Matt Ryan officially signs with Atlanta to retire as a Falcon forever. Then the second one comes, Matt Ryan is given his just desserts. He's being inducted into the Falcons Ring of Honor. And finally, Arthur Blank is also being inducted into the Falcons Ring of Honor. Now, what are your thoughts on those 3 stories that happened in Atlanta? And then also some, and I'm hesitant to even say this, but some have demanded that Mike Vick should also be inducted into the Ring of Honor. And do you agree with that? Now, remember, Michael Vick also flipped off the Atlanta Falcons fans in the Georgia Dome.
Yeah, I mean, look, obviously Matt Ryan is like the most no-brain Ring of Honor guy in the world. So that's obviously that. I mean, again, I didn't see the Falcons when they came to town in '66, but in my lifetime, Matt Ryan is the greatest Falcon that ever lived. And others could have other opinions, but I'm not here to argue that. In terms of Mike Vick, like I would, but I can understand if Arthur Blank didn't. And you got to remember, this is about the owner. And this is about his decision. This is about a guy that really hurt Arthur Blank on a personal level. I'm not even talking business, on a personal level. And so if Arthur Blank is not interested in that, I can absolutely understand why. I don't know if I would make Mike Vick the first one back, or the next guy, if you will. I think John Abraham should be on that list. I think Julio Jones, whenever he is done, because I think he's still with the Eagles, but whenever he's done, I think Julio should get up on that list as well. I think you're years down the road, but I would imagine Jake Matthews is eventually headed for that list as well. Mike Vick's on the very, very close short list of, I understand if they do, but I also understand if they don't. And so that's really going to come down to how Arthur Blank feels. And quite frankly, I think he would lean into the probably not in my lifetime, and not in a negative connotation. I think he was really, really badly hurt by the situation there. And it probably still affects him to this day.
Absolutely. I agree 100% on that one, and we've seen some good, some great, and some not so great players come into Atlanta. And, I have had the privilege of meeting Barkowski. He's a great guy. Now, I will tell you this, Steve Barkowski talks your ear off. He's a great person, has 1,000,001 stories. One name that I know you also probably are a big fan of, Warrick Dunn. He has done so much for the city of Atlanta. I mean, he has his homes for mothers that he still does even to this day. That is a remarkable thing. For those who don't know, he builds homes for mothers who are underprivileged and that kind of stuff. He actually pays for the down payment, and then it furnishes the entire house, helps them get financed even for the house. It really is amazing. And Warrick Dunn, his story is remarkable in itself. He lost his mother. He raised all his siblings. So I think Warwick Dunn should even be mentioned in that list before Michael Vick. I mean, heck, I would even throw Michael Turner. Michael Turner did a lot of great for the city of Atlanta. Do you agree on those two names?
Well, Warwick Dunn's already in. He actually went in way
Okay.
back in 2017. So yeah, Warwick Dunn was like one of the first guys after Arthur Blank bought the team that got put in. Turner is interesting. I don't know if he was here long enough. Yes, it has a little to do with what you're doing in regards to the city, but I don't know. He had some great seasons, but the term wasn't quite long enough. So I would probably pass on Michael Turner. But yeah, like Warwick Dunn is obviously one of the all-timers for a pair of NFC South franchises. Obviously, he's a legend within the Tampa Bay Bucks community, but certainly a legend here in Atlanta. So he is rightfully in that Ring of Honor way back in 2017. So yeah, he rightfully earned it and belongs there.
JD.
All right, hey, let's go here, Abe. Not to switch it up too much. We were talking about the quarterbacks, talking about Trevor, talking about Tua. He might be getting a new contract. He's winless in games in less than 45-degree weather. Do you feel like there's going to come a time here soon where this quarterback market resets itself and they start figuring out that it's better to draft a rookie guy on a cheap deal and put a really good team around him? Do you see any of that shifting? Do you think any of these teams are going to regret signing all these huge contracts to these players?
Yeah, it's an interesting discussion. I don't think it resets to where that's the preferred method. I think it resets to where that might be the method you have to choose in some situation. I think if you have a quarterback you believe you can win with, and when I mean win, I mean the big thing, you're going to pay that guy and try and win it that way. But I don't think you're going to be paying guys that you don't believe you can get with. Like Daniel Jones should have never made $40 million. That was a massive mistake. And so I think you're going to find these huge disparities between quarterbacks you think you can win with, right? The guys that are, I mean, I would have said 40, but now making 45 or 50 million and above, right?
Right.
The Trevor Lawrences, eventually Dak and Tua are going to join that list, and you can go through the guys you can win with. And then there's other situations where you do hope to strike gold. Maybe it's in the draft. Maybe it's a guy like Brock Purdy where you didn't think you know, whatever. But like, I mean, what do you do if you're in the Niners and you go to the NFC title game or even the Super Bowl again and don't win? Like Brock Purdy's taking you there twice. You're really not going to pay that guy $50 million and you're going to have to restart and hope that you hit gold again. Like, I don't know if he's good or not, but I know where he's gotten you twice, hypothetically. So,
right. Well, yeah, it's gonna
I think it's going to be dependent on whether or not you think you can win with that guy. But I do think there's like a group of middle ground quarterbacks that are not going to get paid. Like, I don't know if Baker Mayfield in the future is going to make $40 million. Gardner Minshew made 25, right? Stuff like that. If you're in that realm where you've got a guy that's good but not good enough to win it all, you probably should just go ahead, restart, and go the rookie route.
Right. Well, see, and my only pushback on that would be, I mean, are any of those guys really good enough to win? I mean, Dak hasn't won. Lamar hasn't won. We got Tua, who hasn't even won a playoff game. We've got Trevor Lawrence, who has only won one playoff game and blew a 28-0 lead, I believe.
But it's about the belief. It's about that team.
Or no, he came back from that lead, didn't he? Yeah.
He came back.
Right.
Yeah, it's about
he came
that
back
team's
from that.
belief
Yeah.
he could win. I'm not saying that look, not all of these guys are going to win, but you think that they're capable in the right situation. Could they win? And I think that's the question that each team individually is going to have to answer. If they believe that they can, you got to pay that guy, because starting over, like rolling the roulette of quarterbacks in the first round, is such a nightmare. It's such a lottery. Like, you just don't know that you'd like to avoid it.
Right.
And like, not to like cherry pick on what's happened, but like, obviously the last two Super Bowls have been won by Patrick Mahomes. That guy that was sitting on a $50 million deal. I'm trying to think like who won before him.
Brady.
You had Brady. Now Brady was interesting. He took his own pay cut, right?
Right.
But that was its own situation.
And then other than
Matthew
that,
Stafford was on a huge deal.
There you go. Stafford won.
Stafford was on a huge deal. Then it's back to Mahomes and Brady. Now the Eagles, way back in 2017, they had the Nick Foles thing. So obviously that was like out of nowhere. But I mean, you go back, Brady, Peyton Manning, Russell Wilson. You go all the way back to 2013, Flacco, but I don't even remember what he was making. It feels like he was probably at the top of the quarterback pay chart though back then. Like
I think
the guys that win,
after.
right, he did. You're right, but the guys that win mostly are making big bucks, and so it's tough to argue. I know you got the Foles situation, you got Flacco who was cheap and then eventually made big, but that feels more the exception than the rule. The rule still seems to be guys are getting paid because you believe they can win. And until proven differently, I do think you could build a franchise around the idea of rookie scale quarterback, make everything else good. But quite frankly, it hasn't worked in the long run. And Brock Purdy, I thought has been the closest to that because they're spending money all over the place except quarterback, but that's going to come to an end soon.
Right. Well, and you mentioned Patrick Mahomes just a minute ago. Let me tie this in a nice little bow. I'll throw it back to Brandon. You basically just mentioned Patrick Mahomes. I feel like all of these guys are getting the Patrick Mahomes mulligan, the benefit, whatever it may be, because we hadn't even mentioned Josh Allen, and he gets paid. And he's lost to Mahomes. And so I just feel like all these guys are just like, man, Mahomes is that good, but this is our best chance at beating him. So they're signing these guys to these contracts, and we'll see how it works. I don't know that anybody's going to beat Mahomes. Mahomes is clearly,
The thing is, no one's better than Mahomes. I think we can argue that. They have not done a great job of keeping an incredibly strong team. Like they're so singularly focused on certain players. Like if Chris Jones isn't a nightmare on the defensive line, it's a problem. They obviously had L'Jarius Sneed last year. They don't have him anymore. That could be a problem in the secondary. And then Travis Kelce. Like they're trying to kind of hope that they catch fire with a number of different speedsters in terms of the wide receivers, but they don't have a great receiving core. Like there's so many ways that goes wrong as opposed to it going right. But it's gone right with Patrick Mahomes because he's one of the best to do it already. If you're even slightly a little bit diminished from Mahomes, what they've built, and because this is a team that's got a lot of holes. It's a team that's not dominant in the regular season. They have found a way because Mahomes makes guys around him better. There are a lot of high-priced quarterbacks that don't really boost the talent around them. Patrick Mahomes does, and also you're dealing with Andy Reid, and I think there's a big difference. And I know a lot of people don't want to be like, I don't know if head coaches even matter in the NFL. It's about the guys on the field. I really tend to disagree. Like, I think Sean McVay and Kyle Shanahan have proven that, considering the talent and the quarterbacks that they've had. And I think Andy Reid certainly has proven that as well.
A couple of things I want to wrap up on that, and then we'll go to the next topic. The Chiefs fans were angry. Remember that the Chiefs drafted Mahomes, and they're eating crow now.
Yeah.
And then the last thing, and what you just said is, Kyle Shanahan and Andy Reid and all that stuff. Let's not forget who really took Atlanta to the Super Bowl was Kyle Shanahan.
Yeah.
So it's there. So all right. So I want to switch this up one, and then Abe, and you actually mentioned that we talked about this the day it happened. You are I guess you say the producer for our Five Stripes, Atlanta United. Something rather amazing and actually kind of comical happened for Atlanta United the other day. Now we saw actually, I want to have you describe it to the fans, Abe, because when I saw it happen, I just kind of was like, did that really happen? Explain what happened with the goalie and with Atlanta United, please.
Yeah, so this was last Saturday. So a week ago, tomorrow. And it's something that I've seen on YouTube highlight. Like, I've seen a ton of YouTube highlights of this happening, and I'm like, come on, that doesn't really happen. There's no way that really happens. But it did actually happen right in front of me. I was in the building in Mercedes-Benz Stadium for it. And essentially what happened was a player went down out of bounds behind the goal, trying for a diving header. And he kind of slow played his return to the field. He got a drink of water from the goalkeeper's bottle and kind of was just biding his time, kind of waiting. And what he was doing was playing a little bit of hide and seek, but also, we talked about Batman coming from the shadows. Jamal Tiare came from the shadows as well. And what happened was the goalkeeper was going to put the ball into play, but he didn't do it with a punt. He did it by putting the ball on the ground and putting it into the field. And essentially, Jamal Tiare came from behind him. The goalie didn't know he was there when he threw the ball out to give a long kick. Didn't know he was there. And Tiare kind of, as soon as he puts the ball on the ground, touches it and steals it away from the keeper and then finds an open net as the keeper was well out of position, didn't know that there was still a guy available behind him. It's one of those things where you've talked about, you've kind of loosely seen it. It's happened before, but you're assuredly that would never happen to me sort of situation. But it happened, and I don't know. I mean, it's the craziest finish that I've ever seen. Like, we've seen it happen. We've never seen it happen with, like, quite literally the final touch of a game. Like, I think they touched the ball 3 times after that goal and the final whistle was blown. Like, that was it. It was like a game winner in full-on stoppage time. It was pretty crazy. So I don't think I'll ever see something like that again.
Shane, go ahead.
I've seen it before on YouTube. I've watched highlights of it. I didn't think it was real. Like, I was joking with Mike Connie and Jason Longshore, the voices of Atlanta United. I was like, I always thought this was like a Washington Generals, like Harlem Globetrotters, like they pre-planned it. They pre-planned it out before the game. Like, here's what we're gonna do. No, this like really happened, and it was an incredible moment. And I know it wasn't the biggest crowd at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. It was maybe 45 or 50,000. It may have actually been the loudest it's been since I've been there. Like, that moment and the response after the goal, the pop that you received at that moment was kind of crazy.
Shane.
Oh yeah, well, and Atlanta, man, they've had a decent turnaround to this season. On the pitch. We're up here close to Charlotte. They've first started out. Last year, made the playoffs in their first year. They're right now sitting in 6th place, battling for the playoffs again. With Atlanta coming through and all, we see the rivalry in the NFC South already. But the CLT, the ATL matchup, is that going to become one of the best rivalries in the MLS in the coming years, especially with the fan base and kind of the gatherness of how each city's kind of taken up the sport after not being known to actually even have interest into that sport?
Well, I don't know about the best rivalry in MLS. Like, obviously, you got El Tráfico, LA Galaxy, and LAFC, which we just saw last night. But I think it's a really interesting one. And obviously, you got added to most recently here in Atlanta. That was the last game. It was essentially the game that got the head coach, the previous manager of Atlanta United, fired when Leo Abada put home 2 goals of very similar nature. And so I do think, Atlanta's been looking for a rival, and Orlando City was the rival when Joseph Martinez was here because of some comments he had back and forth with them. But I do think Charlotte's the rivalry. And look, we're heading up to Charlotte August 31st and trying to find 3 points there. But I do think it's a really good rivalry. It's regionally a really strong rivalry. You've already got that rivalry in a couple of sports, and I want to get into the potential expansion in baseball, but who knows if there's another rivalry brewing between Atlanta and Charlotte. But yeah, you're talking about 2 great southern cities that are dealing with it. And so I do think it's one of the better rivalries. I think it's going to take a time to catch on across MLS, because I think you have like Seattle and Portland and their Pacific Northwest thing. You already, like we mentioned, the 2 LA teams. You got Houston and Dallas. I mean, there's a couple of regional rivalries that make sense. But there's no reason that Charlotte, Atlanta, at least the way we view it here in Atlanta, I do think that's the budding team that we are up against that you're comparing yourselves with. And look, Charlotte's done an outstanding job this season, especially at home. They turned Bank of America into an absolute nightmare for opposing teams to come into. They've got a great home record. The defense is ramped up at home. They do not concede much. They've been very strong, very strong. And a rivalry only works if both teams are competitive. It only works if you're competing for something, you're fighting for something. The games matter. And that's the case right now with Atlanta, who's scratching and clawing to find their way, but also for Charlotte, who's continuing their path towards improving. So, yeah, I do think that's a rivalry that can grow into one of the better ones. Not there yet. It's going to take some time. It needs a little bit of history behind it. You don't have that right now, but there's potential there. There's no doubt about that.
Hey,
oh yeah. Best defense Bank of America's seen in the past few years.
Right.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Hey, listen, I'm trying to get more into soccer. I just listened. I watched Wimbledon the other morning. I was on vacation this week. Monday morning, 10 o'clock in the morning. I was watching. I was like the dude on Family Guy. Boom, he hit it again. Boom, he hit it again. And that's just the first point of the first game of the first match of whatever. Like, I was all into the tennis thing. So, hey, listen, I got one difficult question for you. Maybe not too difficult. You can take it any way you want to take it. This is one I wanted to ask you as a radio person. I love calling radio stations. I'm going to have to call you one day when you're on the radio. So I need to ask you, though. You can give me one of your fans' best takes of the year so far regarding the Braves, Falcons, Hawks, Atlanta United, whatever team, soccer, whatever. You can go wherever you want to go. Or I want to hear the worst. Or if you've got time, you can give me both. I don't really care.
Yeah, well, first off, I am hosting on 92.9 The Game from 2 to 5 on Sunday. I've got pre- and post-game for Atlanta United tomorrow night, but on Saturday night. But Sunday,
Beautiful.
2 to 5, you should definitely call us up. We'll have a chat. I'm trying to think of, like, some of the, like, more outlandish takes that we've had. Like, normally, and we definitely get them. Like, there's no denying that. But normally, like, I just, like, don't give a ton of credence to the bad ones. Like, the good ones probably – but like, I'd like to think the good takes are like also in line with what I've already promoted. So like the bad takes,
Right.
maybe are the ones that like I haven't suggested. I mean, honestly, like the most recent one is like the Dyson Daniels discussion. And I don't even know if it's a bad take. It's just not necessarily one that I believe in. Like, I just don't believe that Dyson Daniels is going to be your starting two guard. And we have gotten some calls over the last week where people, and by the way, Dyson Daniels is the guard that is reportedly part of what is currently unofficial deal for DeJounte Murray. He's a high-level defensive player, has some real issues with the three ball. Like, that one is like one I'm not behind, like, entirely. Like, I like him as a rotational player, but I'm not getting behind this dude playing like 32 minutes. But like most of the bad takes are not Atlanta centric. Like we've had some absolutely atrocious, like Caitlin Clark takes this year. And like I talked with you guys last time. Like we were talking Atlanta Dream, see what's going on. Like I've been watching the WNBA. I've been paying attention to this more than just this year. A lot of people are kind of stepping into it for the first time and like either want to crown or it's either really crown or clown, right? And I know we're only changing a letter there. And a lot of crown or clown Caitlin Clark takes. And it's just like, you know, when you could tell someone just stepped into something like that day and it was the first time they've ever seen it. And you're like, you have no idea what you're talking about, man. Like, there's been a lot of those where it's like, wow, like you didn't watch women's basketball at all before Tuesday, huh? Like, so there's probably been some takes along that line. That'd probably be like the worst one.
Right. No, I got you. Hey, like I said, man, hey, I'm sure I call and get plenty of bad takes. But again, we appreciate you being here. Brandon back.
Yes,
I had to ask you that question though, you know, being a radio and me. Dude, I used to call the radio station here when I was like 8 years old. My mom has a cassette tape of her recording me off the radio, prank calling the radio. And so and I don't prank call now. Obviously, I try to have good sports takes, but
Yeah.
they're far and few between.
Hey, so Abe, I don't know if it's going on in your area. JD can attest to this right now. Outside, the sky is purple and pink. It is extremely beautiful outside. So that kind of tells me that hey, got some time with the family and everything. So I'm gonna go ahead and tell you this, guys. His name is Abe Gordon of the Abe TL Show, 92.9 The Game in Atlanta. Has excellent content daily with Atlanta Sports Radio. Abe, would you please do us the honor and share it with everybody your social media handle so that they can follow you?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty simple. It's just my name, at Abe Gordon. If you do have, for some reason, a reason to hit me up on Instagram, it's at Abe_Gordon. But like I've said before, that's mostly like just running pictures and more than that, like just my dog. If anything, I don't post on the IG. It's really just like in case Twitter ever dies and I have to deal with threads. So definitely hit me up on Twitter, though, on X, whatever you want to call it. At Abe Gordon. You'll find out when I'm hosting. I throw some takes out there. We have some weird rankings and lists that we got to deal with, and people shout at me for those. I did a July 4th movie ranking on my show on yesterday. So
nice.
Yeah,
Check that out.
Hey, you can look forward to a phone call from me, buddy. I promise you that.
Yeah, like I said, man, call me up on Sunday, 2 to 5. We'll be talking about it. I gotta figure out my content. I'm not gonna lie, I don't have that much planned yet, but that might come down to what's going on with the Braves and Phillies this weekend and all sorts of other stuff. But yeah, at Abe Gordon on Twitter, and chat me up, man. I know Brandon, you and I have traded texts and tweets, and JD, I know you've hit me up a couple times as well. I like to be pretty active for those who respond to me. I don't post every single take that I have on Twitter. So I do want people to listen, but the ones I do, like some response. And if you're not a troll, then we get some good back and forth. If you are a troll, you might get muted. And that's the key here, JD. The key is the mute button. Blocking.
Yes.
Blocking is no good because someone gets something out of it. They knew they got to you and they feel like a little bit of redemption. But if you mute them, they never know that you're bothered, and then you don't have to see it, and they think that you're still reaching them, and they're just ignoring you. The mute button is God's work, and I will stand by that.
And don't forget the dump button too, Abe. The dump button is the best friend too, right?
I think you had to use that on me earlier today. So,
little story on that one actually.
It was all good.
I had
family friendly.
Yes. So it was Memorial Day weekend. I was producing for 98.9 WORD, a news talk station here in Atlanta. In Atlanta, in Greenville. And a knucklehead decides to call in and uses the F word on air for a steak from Red Lobster. And I tried to catch the dump button at the same time I'm trying to drop the call, right? Yeah, it played over the air. Needless to say, I had a nice little conversation with my boss and had to do some training.
We had, obviously we're in Atlanta, and we're part of the Odyssey cluster, and so we have a hip hop station, and we had hip hop artists come up. It was Rick Ross, among others.
No.
And who was it? Memphis, or was it Meek Mill? It was Rick Ross and Meek Mill. And I think Meek Mill, I don't know, but he threw the F-bomb so many times that we ran out of dumps. And
oh my goodness, I didn't think it was even possible.
We ran out of dumps, and this was a while ago, so hopefully the FCC is not paying attention. We ran out of dumps, and it just aired. I turned to my boss, was like, we got no more dumps, man. I don't know what to tell you. We dumped it as many times as we could, and he threw 4 of them that still went over there. We're like, yeah, man, it's gonna happen. There's no avoiding that one. And
hey, our friend Trey just said he heard it.
Oh yeah. No, Rick Ross was like, yo, we're live on air, and Meek Mill was like, yeah, he didn't catch, he didn't recognize it. He said one of the words he couldn't say. Then he's like, "Oh, my bad, I can't say that." And then he said it again like 4 seconds later. It was it was art, man. It was almost art how smoothly it came out. But yeah, so we used to that a little bit.
It happens. You know, we're in radio. It happens. It's no big problem. And I'm gonna let you know, Abe, our man JD was taunting Shane one day and dropped the S word because he likes to taunt his brother-in-law. So it happens. It's perfectly normal. Hey, I've almost said it when I was talking on the air one time. I almost said it, and then JD has even heard one of our friends, Shane Barrett, say it on the air too. The sports side that I'm at. So it happens. So, but hey, it's been so much fun having you on, sir. I love that we've talked, and I love that you and I have a good conversation once in a while. It's refreshing to.
You got to get off Reddit. You got to stop reading these rumors. You always send me. You always send me something like that. Real. What are you talking about?
Hey, I watch every feed there ever. See, you kind of see the sky is purple behind me right there.
It is. That's actually pretty cool. That's not happening here in Atlanta.
It is gorgeous. Right. Oh my gosh, my wife's outside. She's enjoying it. Here. So I want you obviously again because I love hearing from our man Abe, and being an ATL boy myself, it's so nice to get perspectives other than my cousin Cody, who is a Falcons season ticket holder. It's nice to get Atlanta sports talk come and talk to us. It really is refreshing. So I definitely want to we say thank you so much for coming. We are gonna let you go ahead and go to your thing because I know it's Friday night. You got to write that rundown, and so let JD know that it is difficult to write rundowns because I write them for my station. And yeah, man, we're so happy to have you here, brother.
Yeah, nobody said it wasn't hard. Nobody said it wasn't hard. I'm just saying I can help do them too.
Oh, there you go. You guys got to get on Google Drive so you can both add to it at the same time. That's
yes.
In a streaming world, I will call it the new meta, if you will. So, get on that. But yeah, thank you guys for having me as always. Appreciate chatting with you guys and kind of kicking it around and just having some fun, man, on a Friday night, man. I'm always happy to come on when my schedule allows, and we'll certainly do it again soon.
Hey,
absolutely. Hey, everybody follow at Abe Gordon, please. Let him know your thoughts. He wants to hear from you, the fan. He loves talking sports with everybody. Abe, we appreciate it, brother. You take care of yourself, okay, my friend?
Yeah, thank you guys, man. We'll catch up soon.
Yes, sir.
Absolutely, man. We'll see you, buddy.
Hey, guys, such a great show to have our man come on and talk Atlanta sports. I know this is a longer show than normal, but guess what, guys? This is going to be the new norm for the Sportz Nutz. Hey, guys, I cannot tell you how thrilled we are to announce this. JD has come up with the best idea for all the mixed nuts fans. JD, would you please share with all of our friends and fans what the great news is coming, sir?
That is very funny. You said that. I literally just a minute ago when I told Abe I was going to call him, that's literally what I was writing right here. So, ladies and gentlemen, we will be having the first ever fantasy football league for the Sportz Nutz and the Mixed Nuts. Shane and I will be doing a football show on Saturday coming up this fall. We're still working out the details on the name. We think we got one. Listen, y'all just need to stay in touch, stay in tune. Make sure you're checking out the content, whatever we put out. Like, follow, share. And, I will have this fantasy football league put together very soon. We'll get you the details. It's not going to be anything crazy. The prize might be something crazy. Who knows? But we'll start it out simple. We'll build it into something big. We might even do an upset challenge with our listeners while y'all are on. We can do a bunch of different contests. It's all up to you, our fans. We need y'all to get in and comment and talk while we are here because we want to interact while we are doing this. Listen, I'm all over the place. I got Twitter up, Facebook up. I'm doing this off my phone now. So I'm talking to everybody. All right. So get in here. Y'all give us your comments. Give us your thoughts. We appreciate those of you who were here. Absolutely. Much love. Shout out Julie Ray for that big game winning hit the other day. Shout out to all the family. We love y'all. Trip, can we say we are Sportz Nutz?
We're Sportz Nutz.
Hey, you know what though? I'm telling you guys now. So this Saturday show that's going to be happening. Yes, it's going to be JD Sheen, but you know what though? I'm coming on her, and her man Springs. He's coming on. He's making the introduction, by the way. So y'all are going to be amazed to see the introduction that's coming out.
Shout out Springs.
Yes, Springs is here. He didn't come on tonight because he has a lot of things going on, so it's okay. He is just a fill-in for once in a while. But guys, we love you. Don't forget, July 19th is literally knocking on that door. It's coming. It's coming here. And when it gets here, you're going to see all the Mixed Nuts fans and the Sportz Nutz crew. We are going to be broadcasting live from Tequila's Grill and Easley. This man right here, Uncle Poops, he's coming up. Woo! Cannot wait to have him up. Anytime we get around with each other, we all cracking a joke one. Hey, our man Trey Davis just said, I plan on going. Trey, get the word out, brother. Share. Tell everybody, come on. Hey, we're going to be doing a giveaway. We have a prize pack that we are building. I'm going to give you a little hint. One of the prizes is right here. I'm not going to flip it over, but it's big. I'm not going to share it with you, though, until the day of. JD knows what it is. Shane knows what it is. And, of course, I know what it is. So be ready for it. Hey, we have a wonderful guest coming up. We're not going to have anybody next week until the end, which is JD and mine's one of our favorite guys. Jake Crane from Crane and Company is joining the show. We cannot wait. Guys, you're going to want to talk to this man. He is electric. He is the legend. Jake Crane. Hey, we're still working on trying to get the details finalized with Dan Orlovsky. It may not happen. I don't know. I'm trying to work his schedule out because, as everybody knows, training camp is literally knocking on that door. And for those who don't remember, Dan Orlovsky used to play for the Detroit Lions. He is a analyst for NFL Live on ESPN, so it's going to be hard to try and get the schedule set up. So just prepare. I do have a potential backup possibly lined up. I'm also I've locked down a couple good buddies of mine. They were co-workers with me, Nick Shalini and Chris Domino. They are Atlanta radio personalities as well. I worked with them. They're great people. I'm trying to get Matt Chernoff. Have all three on there, guys. If you get a chance to talk with them, you will love them. I promise you, they're fantastic. We have so much coming up. Shane, would you please tell the lovely people where they can find you?
Oh, well, also in news too, hey, the tumblers are coming. We'll just put it in a
show the people.
So should be, yeah. So we've got our Sportz Nutz, kind of festive things. We're able to, customize and all as well. So we've got that merch coming. We should be ready to go by the time we go live on location. So, hey, we're talking about coming up this weekend. Hey, y'all check us out tomorrow, 7:30 for our Saturday.
Yes, be there.
Oh, I mean, we've got some good stuff to talk about. Hey, we're there every Saturday, 7:30. We're there every Tuesday. We're there every Friday. As always, you find me, Shane Owen, on Facebook, S.Owen1240 on Instagram. Recently, Twitter, X, Poop Sports, and always interact, chat, everything on Snapchat, Shane O'Mac 1240. Hey, looking forward to hearing from you guys. Hey, JD, who you got over there with you?
Oh, man, I just got two of my little favorite humans here, Paxton and Trip Wyatt, of course. Don't forget to follow me, though, at JDWyatt06. You can see all the crazy things that we are doing on the daily. I got videos of them at the pool. I got videos of their watermelon they got planted out back. but hey, we just love, getting out there and showing off what we got. We're proud of it. We love these boys. We love you guys, the fans. We love doing this. Thankful for Brandon and giving us this opportunity to do it. Been a great episode. Be blessed, not stressed. Follow me at JDWyatt06 on Twitter. And hey, boys, one more time. We are the Sportz Nutz. Say it. We are the Sportz Nutz.
We are Sportz Nutz.
There we go.
That's right. Hey, before I let you guys go, I have to talk about this. JD knows about it. I want you guys to please know this is a very important topic to me. In 4 days, my 1 year ago, 4 days, my life changed forever. I had a widowmaker heart attack. Didn't think it was going to happen, and I woke up and I had a heart attack. I had quadruple bypass July 10th, 2023. JD and I had one of the most special moments last night. We had a long hug embrace. I'm here. It's been a year. I'm here. I'm raising my glass to JD. I'm raising my bottle to Shane. I'm trying not to cry because it's emotional, but I'm here. I'm alive. God gave me another chance. I get to be with you all, the fans. I get to be with my two best friends. I love you guys. I love all my fans. I love all my friends. So here is to my man JD and my man Shane. And here's to God. Here's to my wife, my family. We made it 1 year, guys. 1 down, 100 to go.
Hey,
To you.
hey, man, like I told you last night, if you weren't alive, I wouldn't feel as alive as I do right now. So, yeah. Hey, before we get too more emotional, all right? Before we get too sad, let's go ahead. Let's get on out of here and go hang out with our family, man. Happy 4th of July, everybody. Y'all continue to
Yes.
be blessed, not stressed. We'll catch y'all later, all right?
Shane, what do you tell the
yeah.
lovely people, sir?
Hey, man, always much love of everybody watching. Hey, peace, love, and bacon grease. We out.
That's right. Peace, love, and bacon grease. And with all that being said, for our man Abe Gordon, for my man Shane Owen, for my man JD, as I say, I'm Brandon. I say peace up, A-Town down. We love you. Show's over.
For the
Good night.
egg. Bye.
We'll see you tomorrow. Bye.